On Sunday, President Biden made his first trip to the border as president of the United States. This comes after months of absolute chaos going on at the border. I covered it here over the holidays if you were watching some of those videos. Essentially, thousands of migrants spread out along the river in the city of El Paso, as well as on the city streets, with temperatures dropping well below freezing. Those numbers have slowed down. At that point, there were 3,000 to 4,000 migrants entering the city of El Paso alone each day. That number is now in the high hundreds to roughly 1,000 a day. But you might not see that there's any problem at all if you followed along with President Biden's trip to the border. If you looked at that, you might have seen him visiting migrant centers that were empty and a border and city streets that looked absolutely clean. I can assure you that that's not actually the case, but first let's take a look at this article from CNN explaining a little bit more. Biden makes tightly controlled visit to the southern border, his first as president. President Joe Biden visited the U.S.-Mexico border on Sunday for the first time as president, but he did not appear to see or meet with migrants, including during a trip to a migrant respite center. Biden spent several hours in El Paso in his first visit to the southern border as president, following growing outcry and criticism that he has not yet seen the crisis created by the record number of migrants trekking to the border firsthand, but that brief visit appeared largely focused on enforcement issues and speaking with the border enforcement personnel. Reporters on the ground did not see any migrants at the respite center during the president's visit there, nor along the motorcade routes throughout the afternoon. Convenient. Asked to explain the thinking behind having Biden visit this specific center and ultimately not meeting or interacting with any migrants there, a senior administration official told CNN, quote, "There just weren't any at the center when he arrived. Completely coincidental. They haven't had any today." Biden's visit was scheduled at a time when border crossings had already dropped drastically in El Paso. Still, CNN's Rosa Flores reported Sunday that hundreds of migrants, including children, were living on the street after crossing into the United States in El Paso, and nearly 1,000 additional migrants were in federal custody in detention facilities in El Paso on Sunday, according to the city of El Paso's migrant dashboard. Now, if you remember from a few weeks back, we showed video from several reporters along the border who were showing literally thousands of people walking across it's the Rio Grande River, but it looks very much like a canal in this area. It's cement on both sides. Migrants were having to cross the river with temperatures going down as low as 15 or 20 degrees at night, crossing the river, getting very wet in the process, and then standing in long lines, and then having to essentially line up and slowly being let through a fence, being met by U.S. Border Patrol on the other side. Now, I made the point then, if we're going to let these people in on the other side and process them through Border Patrol, why are we treating them like animals and herding them like sheep through a river and across to the other side when there's a perfectly good bridge standing right there? If you're going to let them through and process them, let's treat them like the human beings that they are and give them the respect that they deserve and let them at least walk across the bridge, especially if we're going to bring them in on the other side. Of course, that's not happening. And President Biden didn't get to see any of this because those scenes that looked like that up until a couple days ago now look something like this. Clearly, you can see that things changed, or at least they have the appearance of change. In reality, in other parts of the city of El Paso, where President Biden clearly and very coincidentally, in quotes, did not see, looked more like this.
They're all on this bus. This bus is here now 24/7. These buses are here to keep them warm. They sleep in them, some of them. These were city buses. And then this is outside the church here.
Beyond just these couple examples, it's absolutely clear that this trip to the border for President Biden was absolutely carefully planned to a T to not have him in a photo with tons of migrants and what's clearly a crisis going on there. But the fact that they did this is an absolute shame. I mean, for the leader of the Democratic Party, the party who supposedly cares more about this issue than Republicans and has more of a care for the humans involved, it certainly does not seem like that's the case. If you did ultimately care about these people, you would be looking to try to pass legislation to at least provide more clear guidelines to what's going on here. A lot of these people coming over are very intelligent people, but they have run out of money in the process of traveling for weeks or months on end to get here. A lot of them might not have access to the internet, and they're not seeing every other day when, oh, well, today Title 42 is going to expire, and tomorrow it's not going to expire. And now the latest from the Biden administration that they're actually adding Title 42 restrictions to several more countries, including Haiti, Nicaragua, and Cuba. So now these are more countries in which folks are going to be turned around at the border. Initially they had exemptions, now that they don't. So essentially the Biden administration now making it more difficult for folks to come over and claim asylum. But the law isn't actually changing. The fact that I need to read in a ton about this to understand what's going on, and that it's ultimately confusing there. Imagine being someone from one of these countries and having these rules change every day, but you're living in a situation that is frankly terrible, and they're willing to risk everything that they have to make this trek to come to the United States just for the chance to have a better life. They're just risking it all. And essentially the United States government is just essentially, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do this. And in the process, in my opinion, frankly, we're killing people who are risking their lives and enduring on this journey. I want to read a little bit from this New York Times article that talks a little bit about that journey, because I really don't think that a lot of folks really understand what's going on. Jesus Ramirez, 19, another Venezuelan who traveled with Mr. Cardenas from Panama, also arrived on December 31st. He said he does not regret the risks he took during a grueling 3-month trek to the U.S. border. He saw people die along the way, even children, he said, closing his eyes. He still has nightmares about the dead bodies he saw in the Darien Gap, a dangerous and roadless land bridge that connects Colombia and Panama. On the Mexican side, on Sunday afternoon, fewer than a dozen migrants, the majority from Venezuela, appeared defeated, staring across the Rio Grande, where they were welcomed by a newly installed fence, barbed wire, and a row of heavily armed Texas National Guard members. Danielin Chirino, 24, stood next to her 3-year-old Chantel and a group of fellow travelers. Miss Chirino surrendered at a port of entry on December 23rd, she said, but was quickly expelled. She had been trying to reach family in Orlando. I came here today because I heard the U.S. president is visiting the border, she said, adding, quote, I'm hoping against hope that he does something for us. Moments after Ms. Chirino had spoken with the New York Times, a caravan of Mexican state police vehicles raced across the river and stepped on their brakes when they spotted the group of migrants. Ms. Chirino grabbed her daughter and took off running. Again, this is not just folks, I think I just want to go to the United States. Let me just, hop on a bus and they're going to drive me right to the border. That is absolutely not what's going on. This is an absolutely grueling trip that these folks are making, clearly from some of those personal anecdotes that I read there from folks who shared with that reporter. The fact that we continue to play games with changing this rule and that rule and leaving, if you want to prevent people from coming, that's fine, but make it very clear, right? I don't think that that's the thing. I think we should be allowing in a reasonable number of asylum seekers, but make whatever the rule is clear, because this wishy-washy back and forth, no one wanting to actually go and try to solve this problem, is going to lead to more people leaving on, holding on to that glimmer of hope that if I risk everything and make this trip, I've got a shot. And in the process, people are going to die on the way. People are dying on the way. We'll see if anything's going to happen with this. I'm not convinced. The House of Representatives is a mess. I don't even think the Democrats can probably get something together in the Senate. So I have no optimism that this is going to be solved anytime soon. I hope I'm wrong, because this is clearly a shame and shouldn't be happening this way. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed down below. You can hit the bell for notifications. We've got a live stream each day with the rotating cast of, you've got Ron Placone, Tina, you've got Kim on Wednesdays, so make sure you tune in for them. You can also follow me on Twitter at LewisD217. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a good day.